Welcome to the Sherry Andrea Psychic Empath Show with your host, Sherry Andrea. Sherry Andrea brings her listeners interesting discussions and topics related to empathy, psychic and spiritual development, as well as energy work. She is herself a psychic empath, healer, coach, author, and founder of SherryAndrea.com. Welcome, and here is your host, Sherry Andrea.
Hi, and thank you for joining me. This is Sherry Andrea, and before I start with our discussion, which is going to be all about vibrations for beginners, or at least I am hoping I can explain vibrations in more of a beginner sense for anyone who really doesn't know anything about vibrations, energy. I'm going to try to explain vibrations in a way where you'll not only get a good understanding of what they are, but why you would want to work on raising your vibrations. Before I get to that, what I'd like to do first is let you know, if you've been to my blog, you've seen that I have my most recent post. I explained what's going on as far as the show. As far as the show and the schedule of the show, if you haven't noticed, the last couple of weeks, it's been very difficult for me to keep to the schedule. I haven't just ditched you or just decided I didn't want to be bothered. With it being the summer session and I have a 7-year-old, of course, my schedule is completely, I don't even know what to call it, reversed, upside down, backwards. It's just all over the place right now. So normally, I normally live a life where we stick to not a rigid schedule, but we've got a schedule that, allows us to plan for things, allows me to schedule things where I actually know if I schedule something, I'm going to be able to do it at that time that I scheduled. Well, during the summer, all of that goes out of the window. Some weeks there's summer camp, some weeks there's not. Some days I start out working like normal and doing my normal day-to-day and then end up at the pool or at the park or something middle of the day, which usually I'm not there, of course, in the middle of the day. So trying to go with the flow and trying to make sure that everybody's happy. That means me and the 7-year-old. And as you know, if you know anything about kids that age, when they are not satisfied, they will let you know. And so when they are not satisfied and they're not having fun, no one is going to have any fun. So as far as the summer is concerned, I try to take on a schedule that more allows me to just go with the flow, just so that everybody's happy, so that I don't have to make anyone stick to a certain schedule like his grandparents or anything, so that I don't have to regulate them to have him home or pick him up by a certain time, just to make it easier for all of us. Of course, we all want our lives to be as relaxed and stress-free as possible. Easiest way to do that is, at all times in life, make an effort to just go with the flow. I was thinking about this earlier, actually. The reality is that if there is something that you feel you need to hear from me that would be life-changing, well, believe me, if God wants you to hear it, He's going to make sure you hear it. If not from me, then from someone else. But that's how God and the universe works. You're never going to miss out on something. If you don't hear something from me, it's not that you're not going to hear it. You will hear it from someone one way or the other. You can be guaranteed of that. And so if I don't do a show, I actually, I really don't fret about it. I really don't worry about it. Yeah, I always have something to say. However, I also know how things work. And I know that the call always compels the answer. So if there are things that you're working on and, you know, the shows that I do help you, give you information that maybe you need, I'm actually not worried that you're not going to get the information from me. I know that if I don't give it to you, I am not what is important in the process and in your development. What is most important is that you get the information that you need and you get the knowledge that you need. And God in the universe is going to make sure you get it and make sure you get it when you need to get it. Even if that means sending someone else into your life, even just temporarily, just to answer one question for you. So even though I miss doing the show live and at a set schedule, at the same time, I'm at least glad that I can record the shows, and maybe, you know, instead of just doing 2 shows a week, maybe I'll, you know, record, you know, maybe 3 a week, depending on when I find the time. But maybe I can do more. Maybe I can do, like, you know, a few, you know, a week and just do shorter shows, like 30 minutes. But if you have any questions, if there's any specific topic that you think you would like me to cover, feel free to email me at Sherry, Sherry, at SherryAndrea.com. And I've spent a lot of time outside, so forgive me if I sound a little weird because my allergies are just like, here I am. But anyway, tonight what I wanted to discuss is vibrations. Now, of course, we can't discuss vibrations without discussing energy, and we can't discuss energy without discussing this. Everything is literally, you know, as you go along and you learn, you will find that everything is connected to everything. You can't talk about this without talking about that. You can't learn about this until you've learned about that, and this leads to that. And that's actually very normal. That is how it is. When you're first starting out, whether you're starting out on a spiritual path and what you're working on is spiritual advancement, whether or not you're starting out because you have awakened to a realization of abilities that are starting to come forward more, that you're beginning to awaken to more, it doesn't matter whether your need for learning about vibrations is because you're developing psychic abilities or you're working on spiritual development. You both have the same need. Both really technically are the same thing. And I know I've discussed this before in posts that I've written on my website. You know, psychic abilities versus spirituality. You know, you can't really have one without the other. Psychic abilities, to say you're psychic, that's just a label. You know, everybody is psychic, everybody has abilities, everybody is intuitive. It's just that some of us have brought it out more than others. Some of us haven't brought it out at all, maybe because for a time we're blocked, maybe from experiences we've had in our life. But it doesn't matter, we're all the same. So really, whether I say, you know, whether your need is for psychic development or spiritual development, really they're one and the same. We really can't separate them. In the beginning, I can remember when I first awakened to empathy. At about the same time, I became attuned to Reiki. Well, in studying Reiki, as well as studying the law of attraction, I realized that there was this thing. They called it, you need to, you know, send out high vibration energy. I didn't even know what that was at the time. So I set out to do some research on the internet. So this is what I basically found. Vibrations, the definition of vibration is the speed at which energy moves. There are negative vibrations and there are positive vibrations. For example, if I am thinking about the birth of my son, and I'm thinking about that moment, well, in the moment that I'm thinking about that, and I'm visualizing it, I'm remembering it, I'm back in that moment, I'm sending out high, positive vibrations. Now, the reason why I say that, and the reason why I know that is, for one, love is the strongest and most powerful emotion. So often when I tell people, raise your vibrations, or I speak with people about different ways to raise their vibrations when they're going to work on the law of attraction, or when they're going to be doing energy healing. A temporary way to raise your vibrations is to think about something that is a really, really good experience for you. If it can be an experience that elicits the feeling of love or makes you remember that feeling, that is the most powerful thing that you can do to raise your vibrations. You probably maybe still are not totally 100% getting it. This isn't exactly something that's easy because, we're kind of talking science here. We're talking metaphysical, but also we're talking science. We're talking what you learned when you were in high school about how energy works. Well, like attracts like. So when we speak of vibrations, we also speak of what type of energy we're sending out there as far as, is it high vibration, is it low vibration? Low vibration, I'm talking about someone really makes you angry, and all of a sudden you react. And you react and you get really angry, you start yelling, maybe you start throwing things, you're yelling at them, and you're on top of it, maybe you're even saying negative things. Remember, words have power. So as you're doing this, that energy, you're creating energy when you do this. Any act creates energy. You're sending out energy. What kind of energy? It is low vibration energy. Negative energy. You just lowered your vibrations. Well, often when people first realize that they are beginning to manifest more and more, manifest their abilities in a more outward way, often they speak to me about their concern for attracting something negative. I try to explain it the best way I possibly can, and the first thing I always say is, you need to work on raising your vibrations. And when I say that, I mean for them to work on raising their vibrations permanently, not just raise them for the moment and then they lower again. And I'll speak about that in a little bit more detail in a minute. But often that is a common fear when somebody first starts developing abilities. Oh, I hear all the time. Oh, I don't want to get into anything over my head. I'm really wary about, what kind of door I may open, what I may bring into my life. Well, first of all, for one, fear is a negative vibration energy. Worry is a negative vibration energy. Frustration is so you see where I'm going with this. All of the negative emotions that you can think of, that you could exhibit, those are all low vibration. So if you are telling me, and you're in a state, you're telling me out of a state of worry and fear, well, those themselves are low vibration emotions. So you're actually, what you're doing, even by expressing that to me and telling me that, and expressing that fear, is you're keeping yourself in this low vibration state. So as you're telling me you don't want to attract anything bad, you're actually doing the very act that attracts negative things. So I know it's kind of funny because it's like you're telling me you don't want anything bad to come towards you, but even in doing that and explaining that fear that you may have, or that anxiety you may have about it, or maybe explaining that you've already had some experiences that were bad, that you are actually exhibiting low vibration and sending low vibration energy out there. So I say that to say this. You have to become a person that at all times is watching and is in control of what you're sending out there. You have to be in control of the self. I mean, often people will say to me, oh, but this person did that, and but this person said this, and I understand that. However, you have to be in control, because you're worrying about what another person does that upsets you does not hurt them. It actually only hurts yourself. It lowers your vibrations. You then start attracting negative vibrations, things to you. And that could be anything. We're not just talking about attracting negative entities. Bad things that could happen. Like maybe you'll just trip over something in your house. I mean, that actually happened to me. So don't laugh. That actually happened. My guys kept warning me to watch my emotions. This was quite a few years ago. I remember it. All week long, they'd been warning me, watch your emotions, watch your emotions, watch your emotions. You know what? I didn't take it seriously enough. And they kept telling me, watch your emotions, something bad is going to happen. At the time, I had baby gates up in my house for both my son and my dog, to keep my dog out of certain areas and then to keep the baby in certain areas. But you get the gist. But anyway, I was constantly, instead of moving the baby gates, going into certain rooms, I would commonly just step over them. Yes, I have tripped over them so many times. But, you know, I trip over it, I get up, and I go on. No, this time, I did not heed the warning. I tripped over the baby gate. I sprained my ankle so bad that like an hour and a half later, when I went to the hospital, I barely made it from the parking lot to the emergency room door. If my cell phone battery hadn't been dead, in the middle of the parking lot, I would have called an ambulance. That's how bad it was. However, I'm in the middle of the parking lot. I can see the emergency room door. I can barely make it there. But the funny thing is I start laughing because I realize how funny it is. I realize what I did to myself. And it's hilarious because now here I am in the parking lot. There's ambulances driving by me, and all I can think of is, I just need to flag one of those down. But it was also surprising that no one stopped to help me. All these cars and all these people walked by me, saw me struggling, and no one stopped to help. But yet I still found it hilarious because I realized that I created my own reality. I did that. I didn't watch my emotions. So you have to really have control of yourself, of your emotions. Yes, it will happen at times that you get upset about something and you can't help yourself and you yell, but you have to at least try. Because what happens is that you will realize quickly as you're working on having control of the self that many of the things you do them because it's become a habit. It's literally become a habit not to control yourself, not to watch what you say, not to watch your emotions. And so you literally have to reestablish a new habit. But as long as you try really hard, it actually won't take you that long to gain control of the self. Now, I'm not saying, and I've read this on, Enlightened Masters, Living Masters website, where they've talked about having control of your emotions of course, what they're getting at is having control of the emotions so that you are controlling what you are creating. The thing is that, and this may be kind of hard to explain, it's not that if you're looking to become enlightened or you're looking to advance spiritually to a certain level, it's not that you're never supposed to get angry, you're never supposed to get upset. However, you're supposed to have control of it. You're supposed to have control of it, and you're supposed to be the one that's deciding when to use a certain emotion. It has power, and you have that control. Now, I can use a perfect example of that, and that is, and I'm sure many of you will, remember this from the Bible. Before Jesus was crucified, like a couple of days before, he was in the temple preaching, and you remember the whole incident with the money changers, with, the commerce that was going on right outside the temple, where it was noisy and everything else. There were the money changers, there were they were selling, back then, they sold animals for sacrifice because they required, for anyone bringing the animals from their home that they had raised, they would be inspected, and many times the temple would reject them. And if your animal was rejected, you could always buy one of the animals that the temple had raised and blessed and everything. However, they were more expensive, plus on top of it, they were taxed. But anyway, not to get off subject. But anyway, it was noisy, and one of those days when Jesus was there and he was preaching, and this was probably the second or third to last, I think it was the second to last time that he actually preached in the temple. He got really angry because he was trying to preach, and there was all this noise going on, all this noise, all this shouting, everything. And he got really, really angry, and he went over and he pushed over the money changers' tables. He opened the gate where the pen was, where the animals were, and he let the animals out. And, of course, they went all running through there, and it was a mess. And then, once that was over, he went back to preaching. But, of course, that was not looked upon very nicely. Now, what I'm pointing out to you is, in that moment, he got angry. But now you have to look at the reason why he got angry. First of all, he was in control of it. He was trying to, he made a point. He made a point. If he hadn't, well, don't you think that it would have come off looking like he approved of what was going on? Well, of course he didn't. And so that's what I mean by you have to learn to not only be in control of your emotions, but also learn to know when to use them and how to use them properly. There's a right time to use an emotion like getting angry or raising your voice, and there's a wrong time, of course. But the master is in control of that. So, as far as vibrations are concerned, if you're starting out and you're not sure you really understand, the important thing to know is that, first of all, the lower your vibrations are, you are attracting negative things to yourself. Negative things, negative people, negative situations, negative everything, pretty much. As you raise your vibrations, you will notice that not only are you going to attract to yourself people who have vibrations that are a closer match to where your vibrations are as you raise them. However, you will also notice that the people that you used to always be around, it's going to get harder and harder to keep those relationships going. Well, of course, you're raising your vibration, you're increasing your vibrations. And if they're staying where they're at, you're getting further and further away from them. and they will feel it in an innate sort of way, in an unconscious sort of way. They won't know what it is. You won't know what it is. But I have heard many people say, I just can't be around certain people anymore. It actually pains me to try to be around them. It's like a struggle. It makes my head hurt. Yes, all these things. They will notice it as well. I have some friends that every now and then when I talk to them, more and more often they'll tell me that, like a few minutes after they get on the phone with me and we're chatting, they'll either say, I all of a sudden have just the worst headache. Well, my vibrations are so much higher than they used to be that now the same people that, I used to communicate with a lot, in my presence, they'll get a headache. Sometimes they'll have the opposite effect. Sometimes if we're just relaxed, sitting quietly, we're not having like any type of heated discussions, where our vibrations are being raised, or where my vibrations are being raised even more, then sometimes they will say, I had a headache, but funny enough, now it's completely gone. Well, that's because, for example, say I was having a coaching call with you, and we started discussing a certain topic, a certain religious topic. Maybe we started discussing a certain ascended master or a certain angel. Maybe we started discussing praying or saying decrees. Depending on what the conversation is, will also increase the vibrations. Now, another thing that will help you understand what vibrations are, besides them being the speed at which energy moves, which is the simplest explanation, besides that, what they are is, I think in the beginning, the way that I understood it the easiest was, the human self, the lesser human self, just regular human self, say on a scale of 1 to 10, say we were at a 1, with 1 being the lowest and 10 being the greatest, and say God is at a 10. We'll say at a 6 or a 7 are ascended masters and angels. But we're at a 1. Look how far away we are from them. Well, we have to be as close as possible with them to not only communicate with them, but to be anywhere near that level, to gain the understanding that comes at that level. Many times the reason why we don't understand things, many times the reason why I can discuss something and someone will say, well, I didn't get it at all. It was because it's a lot easier to understand certain things when you are at a higher vibration. That affects your understanding because it affects what happens with the knowledge that you already have, with the knowledge you're acquiring. It affects the level of understanding you have for it. So you could say that to raise your vibrations is to attempt to raise yourself higher and higher and closer to God. That's one simple explanation of it. So many things are affected by your vibrations being higher. For example, if you are a healer, the higher your vibrations are, the clearer your aura is, the more expanded your aura is, and the more energy your aura can hold at one time. The more energy your aura can hold at one time means the more effective and powerful your healing will be. So that is another reason to want to raise your vibrations, is because of the effect that it has on the human aura. Of course, I've heard many people, I've heard some people say the aura is important. I've heard other people, almost mock me and say, oh, don't listen to her. You don't need to do all that. Some people, they just want to learn things so that they can seem smarter than other people. That's not true. You cannot raise your vibration without working on your aura. So even that person that says, don't worry about the human aura, it's not important. Well, guess what? If they're doing anything, meditation, prayer, chanting mantras, decrees, just staying in a good emotional state at all times. If they are doing anything that helps to increase their vibrations, they are automatically working on their aura, whether they realize it or not. So that is another reason to work on your aura, is if you're a healer, or if you're getting into some healing modality like Reiki, your healings will be more powerful the higher your vibrations are. And of course, like I said, the one of the most important reasons to raise your vibrations is because, like I said, you will have a higher level of understanding as far as the knowledge that you're acquiring. So you can read and read and read until you're blue in the face. But until you couple that with working on raising your vibrations, it's kind of like only having one half of a whole. You may be giving yourself knowledge. You may be doing a lot of reading, but until you add the other half to that, to put it all together, raising your vibrations, you won't be able to bring in that higher level of understanding. That higher level of understanding a thing or a concept. Just think, the things that seem complicated to you today, raise your vibrations, and after a little meditation tomorrow, they will seem simpler. You will understand them a lot better, a lot clearer. So that's really the basics of raising your vibrations as far as the reasons why and what it should mean to you. As far as how to raise your vibrations, as I had mentioned, there is raising your vibrations for the moment, and then there is raising your vibrations permanently. What you want to try to do is to raise your vibrations so that they will be raised permanently, gradually over time. The best way to do that, there's different ways. There's no one right way that works. There are many different ways. Prayer works well, and I don't mean just praying once a day. I mean repetitive prayer, and it doesn't matter, which prayer it is. Chanting mantras, saying decrees. Out of everything that I know, decrees and meditation are probably the two most powerful things that you can use to raise your vibration. I started using decrees, and that's when I noticed a great increase at the speed at which I was spiritually advancing and at which my vibrations were increasing. So, decrees have been proven to be very effective. However, if you just don't like saying decrees, you can either do prayers, you can say mantras, or you could just, stick to meditation. But do something. Even if it's just in meditation, chanting the Om. Chanting the Om is very powerful because it alters your state. It raises your vibrations quite easily. So if you chant that for maybe a few, couple minutes to a few minutes, and then meditate, you will find it very effective. But anything that you do, you have to remember, you can't just do it sometimes. You have to do it on a regular basis. Even if you can't do it every day, maybe you can reach for a goal of every other day. Because the thing is that where you will find the most success is with building up momentum with anything that you do, whether it's increasing vibrations, whether it's something, related to work. Do something and you do it on a regular basis and you stick to it. And what you do is you will build up a momentum. And it works the same way with raising your vibrations. Before you know it, your vibrations are slowly raising, but you stick with it, and then before you know it, your vibrations are raising further and further, but more easily and more quickly as you go along. That is the reason to stick to it. Even if you have to, sometimes we have to change our schedule. We have to do things early in the morning. We have to do things late at night. But at least make the attempt to stick to it. And the best way to do that is to start out with giving yourself something that's easily attainable. So if you have to start out saying, I'm going to start out with once a week, at least you're trying and you're doing it. So start out with once a week and then add another day and then another day and work your way up to it. There's nothing that says you have to start out, going full speed ahead right in the beginning. No, what's most important is that you're successful and that you stick with it. So if that means you have to start out slow, once a day, then fine, do that. But definitely, absolutely, and without a doubt, do something to work on raising your vibrations. It will bring better things into your life. You will attract better things. You will attract better people into your life. You'll attract people that are more of a match for you and where you're at. You'll attract happiness into your life. It also helps greatly, if you often deal with anxiety, depression. Meditation as a way to raise your vibration works really great for that, because what meditation does, it affects certain areas of the brain that control things like depression and anxiety. Now, of course, many people say, well, I have a hard time meditating, and same thing for me. In the beginning, I couldn't meditate even 1 minute, but I stuck to it, and before you knew it, I could do 5 minutes. Like I said, you don't have to start out, going full speed ahead in the beginning. Just at least try and do what you can do. And then before you know it, everything, it'll become easier for you. It's just like riding a bike. It's, of course, not easy when you first start out and you first start learning. It's not easy. You have to learn and practice. And then you will get better and better and better. Well, I hope you enjoyed the time that I spent with you talking about vibrations. If you have any questions, like I said, feel free to email me at sherry@sherryandrea.com. Definitely stop by my website at sherryandrea.com and check out the posts there. There's a lot of posts. There's a little bit of everything. So if you're looking for something specific, you can also search for it on my website. And I look forward to the next time. Thank you and good night.